we've established an integrated campaigns function where we've ensured that our activity is initiated across several channels that our audience is present on. So repurposing is central to this approach. And it's about unlocking really the full potential and full value of the best performing content, but also the best performing formats.
Welcome to B2B Content Strategist, where we bring you insights and practical tips straight from the minds of top B2B content marketing experts. I'm Amy Woods, founder and CEO of Content 10X, and in each episode, I chat with leading B2B marketers about how they consistently craft and execute successful campaigns, even when faced with tight deadlines and limited resources. If you're looking to elevate and optimize your content marketing efforts, you're in the right place. Keep listening. Hello and welcome to the B2B Content Strategist podcast. I'm your host, Amy Woods, and today I'm joined the second time on this show by Ciarán Regan, who is Chief Marketing Officer for Bizzdesign. Absolutely delighted to have Ciarán back. If you are a follower of the show, you may remember that he was also a guest on season 1. Now, Bizzdesign is a Dutch B2B software company that helps some of the world's biggest organisations prepare for the future with their enterprise architecture solutions. In this episode, Ciarán shares what it means to be a full funnel marketer, including how he's grown a marketing team that drives approximately 70% of Bizzdesign's net new business. We also chat about owning your niche, why webinars are a goldmine for repurposing, and how to strike the right balance between using AI and keeping things human. It's a fantastic conversation. I know you're going to love it, so let's jump in. Ciarán, welcome back to B2B Content Strategist podcast. It's really great to have you back on the show.
Thank you, Amy, and thanks for having me back. As you know, I'm very passionate about what I do, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you about all things marketing. So yeah, really glad to be here. And one point as well, Amy, if I think back on listening to the guests on season 1 of your podcast and that first season, there were so many great insights and kind of genuine practical takeaways from those sessions, and I really enjoyed them. So yeah, it's clear you create a great space for these type of conversations. So I'm delighted to be back for this season.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the key thing is back as well. So as you said, you were a guest on the first season, which was actually back in 2022. And it's really interesting because obviously we're going to dig into it in just a moment, but you were in a different position when I spoke to you then at Learn Wales, which we can cover in a sec. But I was looking at most of the guests from that first season, and I actually don't know if there's a single one from 2022 that actually is still working in the same organisation. So I think it's a bit of a sign of the times as well. There was a B2B tech sales focus for that season too. So it's not surprising, I suppose, that in the way the industry's been, that in the last few years, everyone's moved on from where they were 2 years ago.
Yeah, perhaps. I still think there's no better time to be in B2B marketing. But for me, I love to continue to challenge myself and looking for those challenges and adding the most value I can to an organization while enjoying what I do. So that's been driving my progress on that side through the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just a good, segue into the sort of typical introduction for this show, which is, could you just share a little bit about your career today and how you got to where you are today and what that looks like?
So currently I am Chief Marketing Officer for a B2B enterprise software organization called Bizzdesign. So it's a Dutch organization and we have a global remit. So I've spent the majority of my career in marketing, in B2B, and kind of steadily progressed through technology organizations, really focused on driving growth within those organizations and really looking to continue to innovate and to really drive as much impact as possible, while continuing to add value. And lastly, I've really enjoyed, building teams and building capabilities and bringing the right people together. Without a team, none of what I've achieved would have been possible. So that has been present in all my roles and all the great organizations that I've worked in. So I've been fortunate enough to have worked for some successful organizations where I've been able to progress and refine my skills and my expertise over the last maybe 16, 17 years at this point.
And could you explain a little bit about where you are today and what that role looks like? And you mentioned teams, so I'd love to know how have you structured things within the marketing department as well, what the different teams look like.
Sure. And to give you a bit of context, because I believe it always relates back to the organization and what the organization is trying to achieve. So as I mentioned, in my current organization, it's called Bizzdesign, and we work in quite a niche space. So it is in the enterprise architecture space. So we provide a solution for enterprise architects in some of the world's largest organizations. So it's a very technical solution. And as I said, I have the privilege of being the chief marketing officer within Bizzdesign. So firstly, Bizzdesign, it's an organization that has incredible people and has a fantastic culture. And one of the things that attracted me to the role is that despite the fact that Bizzdesign has been around for over 20 years, it's quite remarkable how it continues to innovate in the B2B SaaS software space. So the solution that we provide really helps organizations navigate transformation or change that occurs in most large organizations. So we target some of the world's largest organizations. So it was very much an enterprise grade solution. And with that, I've had to lead the creation of an enterprise grade marketing strategy and also build the marketing team around that, where my role really required me to ensure that Bizzdesign owned the category that we operated in and build a marketing strategy that was fit for purpose.
In terms of how, the marketing team that you're responsible for, what does that look like? And I'd really love to know, what do you like to keep in-house specifically from the marketing function and skill set? And where do you like to work with outside experts to have that flexibility?
The remit is twofold. One is to drive growth for Bizzdesign. So my marketing organization contributes approximately 70% of net new business, both pipeline and revenue for the business. So it's driving that growth first and foremost. And then secondly is establishing what I call true thought leadership. And we can come to that in a moment in regard to how content plays such a vital role there as well. But establishing that true thought leadership in this competitive industry, is key. So my team works very closely with sales, of course, and with customer success to ensure that we position ourselves as the leader in enterprise transformation. So in terms of the team itself, I'm a full funnel marketer, so I've structured the team to deliver impact at every funnel stage or all funnel stages. And that might seem obvious, but I have found that it can be quite fragmented in my experience, and ensuring that the approach is as integrated as possible. So from what I call brand to demand to conversion, that it is structuring the team to ensure that it is operating across the funnel. Quite lean, high-performing team, so responsible for driving pipeline and growth. And it's approximately 10 people in the organization when I took it over. And over the course of the last 12 or 13 months, that's grown to approximately 20 through hiring and also a recent merger that we've gone through as well. So unifying the team and ensuring that it was set up to deliver the strategy that I just mentioned. So at the core, if I take a step back and look at how the team is structured, product marketing would be really the strategic backbone of the team. Product marketing has been that bridge between the product and the market. one area that I have, I believe, quite a unique perspective is the rest of the marketing function I see as being demand generation as opposed to having a specific demand generation team. So take product marketing and then the other functions such as content marketing, integrated campaigns, event marketing, and even operations. I see these as extensions of demand marketing. So I have them working seamlessly together, and as a team, it's quite cohesive. So I would certainly keep those functions in-house. They are the strategic and creative functions. So product marketing, true content marketing, brand management. And I really value campaign strategy and campaign management. So keeping those in-house so that we can stay aligned with, both my vision for marketing and the vision of the business, while we remain, kind of quite adaptable. So there are some additional areas that we might, outsource or look to acquire some external help. Subject matter expertise is something we have in-house within the business, but we also look to bring in some subject matter expertise, around marketing to help refine our strategies. That could be positioning, differentiation. And then we also, at the moment, we outsource some kind of tactical tasks. So along the lines of performance marketing, say paid media optimization, some high volume content production, perhaps some of our larger reports. And then lastly, around, say, regional marketing to support our regional field marketers, we might look at outsourcing some of our event programs to support. So there's a balance there that I feel allows us to stay quite agile, but leveraging external expertise, where we feel it adds value. So we are absolutely open to that balanced approach.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously from what you said, it sounds like it's been quite a period of growth through the acquisitions and just through hiring for certain roles and things like that. So it seems like there's been lots going on in your first kind of year and a bit at Bizzdesign, which I'm sure has more than kept you on your toes. I love to ask this question, and it doesn't necessarily need to cover where you are currently at Bizzdesign, so just across your career, really. What would you say is one of the most memorable marketing campaigns that you have been involved in or led, and not necessarily most successful, but memorable to you, and how you were kind of measuring that and the impact that the campaign had?
Yes, I mean, yeah, that can certainly get me thinking. I've been fortunate enough to have worked on, multiple campaigns, and campaigns that some have been more successful than others. And one thing for sure is that I've continued, to learn from all of the campaigns that I've been involved in. I've also worked on the agency side for 7 or 8 years and been fortunate enough to have worked on some very memorable campaigns during that time. But one campaign comes to mind. It's quite memorable, for several reasons. And that was at LearnWorlds, so a number of years ago. And LearnWorlds is in the ed tech space. So LearnWorlds offered a comprehensive learning management system. And the challenge at the time, I identified an opportunity, which was also a challenge to, I guess, reposition LearnWorlds as a brand to target larger organizations. So they were the more lucrative ones, but we did have the features and benefits to support that, to allow the LearnWorlds platform to be useful to larger organizations. But the challenge was that we wanted to still retain our small business loyalty, those entrepreneurs that got the business to where it was at the time. But we also wanted to ensure that we could drive growth for the business in the future. And why it was so memorable for me is that we took what I would call an outcome-driven storytelling approach. So this storytelling approach really kind of showcased how LearnWorlds supports both entrepreneurs and larger enterprises to succeed. So it was an overarching message that really led with the voice of some of our customers. So we used our existing customers to provide voiceovers on some nice animated creative. And that really resonated with both of those segment. So it was nearly dual messaging, and there was quite a kind of an emotional touch there as well. So that was one that was most memorable because of the involvement of the diverse customers, the way in which we executed that, and we continued to test and iterate on that, and it was both memorable and successful, and it allowed us to create some evergreen content as well, I remember. So there was a longevity aspect to it as well. But coming back to the results, Amy, the ACV, so average contract value, more than doubled at the time. So it validated our assumptions. Trials were, I remember, north of 60% in terms of the engagement rate of our trials. So the larger organizations were getting value from the solution even at the trial stage. And that was another measure of success. And lastly, we measured churn to ensure that churn remained low. So we weren't affecting our existing customer base, that we continued to be focus on them. So there was a balance that we struck there. But testing and setting the measurements and the measurements of success early, I felt allowed the campaign to be both memorable and successful.
I mean, it sounds like you guys needed to be really clever and creative with getting that balance, as you said, of the smaller businesses and creators that got you to where you are, and your plans in terms of what the content would achieve with them, and then trying to reach that larger enterprise or organization too. It's not easy, but I love the fact that it involved the voices of your customers, of the people who actually consume the product, because there's just nothing more powerful, really, is there, than people then being able to, prospects being able to then picture themselves as that person who's sharing that story, as opposed to just you saying like, how successful you are. The voice of the customer is so powerful, isn't it?
Yes, and it allowed us to validate and ensure that we created the correct perception, of LearnWorlds at the time. I've often experienced internally there may be a certain perception and impression that we feel we are giving to the market, but in reality, there may be a disconnect there, and that might be quite different. So it was a successful approach, but it was also, as you say, quite innovative in the fact that we did not rely on solely on customer case studies or customer testimonials, using video, for example. So it's always quite difficult for the majority of time to get customers to create full-blown case studies, video format. So we felt going the alternative route of using audio and matching that with strong creative that we created in-house was a great match, and quite effective at the time.
And like you said, you managed to get more mileage. It's evergreen content, so you get more mileage from that work too. Which leads me on to my next question. It wouldn't be a podcast with me without asking something about content repurposing. And I'd love to know, you guys, create all sorts of different content, papers, articles, webinars, etc. What is your favorite type of content that you can repurpose? So you're creating that, but you'll know that you'll get the most mileage from that piece of content.
Sure. Yeah, we certainly, we repurpose and we distribute our content as far and wide as possible within our target market. So repurposing is crucial for us. It continues to be an integral part of our strategy. But over the last 6-7 months or so, we've ensured that it's part of a wider campaign strategy. So it comes back to my point earlier, where we've established an integrated campaigns function, where we've ensured that our activity is initiated across several channels that our audience is present on. So repurposing is central to this approach. And it's about unlocking, really the full potential and full value of the best performing content, but also the best performing formats. So our webinar strategy and our webinar program continues to be extremely successful for us. in terms of prospecting, but also adding value for our existing customers as well. So we continue to deliver webinars on a monthly basis, and then we amplify that content through a multi-channel strategy. So to answer your question, the webinar format continues to be extremely valuable and beneficial for us, but we execute it in a series. So we might continue to run the theme or topic over a number of months in a series of webinars. And then we take that live webinar, which is part of an overall theme with relevant topics, and then we repurpose that into various formats to ensure that, you know, we reach the widest percentage of our audience possible. So we might repurpose that into an on-demand version, to be ungated. Blogs, of course. We create community posts, so we find our audience is present on certain industry communities, so we ensure we distribute the content produced from that webinar in those channels as well. Smaller video snippets are quite successful as well. And then we often create maybe a high value gated asset from that content, then distribute that through paid means. So that allows us to really ensure that we are unlocking the full potential of the content that we have created, getting as much out of it as possible, and then ensuring it reaches the widest possible audience. So for the moment, that approach continues to be successful for us, and we continue to double down on that approach.
Just a super quick break from this conversation to let you know that if you're a B2B technology or professional services company and you want help with streamlining your content operations, outsourcing your content repurposing is the number one way to produce more high quality content and boost your ROI without putting any more pressure on your team. In fact, it could save your team up to 30 hours per week. We offer content repurposing services for video and audio content. Whether you have a show or you're launching a brand new one, maybe you have an archive of awesome content, be it webinars or a virtual event, or you want help creating thought leadership content that we can repurpose, we've got you covered. Head to content10x.com to see how we can help you and start increasing your efficiency and the value you get from your content. Now back to the conversation.
Yeah, I absolutely love that answer. And I think webinars has been quite a key theme actually in the most recent season of B2B Content Strategist, when we've spoken about the type of content that you can get the most mileage from. And it's something that I've always said, which is obviously webinars are video content and experts on video. And I just love that. Whenever I'm interviewed and asked, well, what should we focus on for repurposing? I say, well, if you're confident doing webinars and video, because you get so much from it. But the other thing that I think when I reflect on this is that, you know, in these times of AI, where there's, you know, so much AI generated content and, you know, a lot of the same content coming out and things like that, and people are becoming a bit fed up of receiving and seeing AI content. There's nothing more human and the opposite of AI than actual experts that are on camera speaking. This isn't created by AI, this is humans. And I think that's another thing about webinars. And that leads me nicely on to the next question I wanted to ask you, which is, when it comes to AI, what ways, if any, are you guys using AI within content creation? What generally are your views on AI in content creation?
Certainly over the last 6 to 12 months, you know, we fully embraced it 100%. And it is a measured but integral part of our strategy. And before I kind of delve into some of the examples, I completely agree with you on the authentic aspect of content, but also the people aspect. So as I mentioned, our content marketing in general, but specifically our webinar series, it really allows us to highlight, you know, the passion behind not just the brand, but the passion behind the people within the organization. So not every format or content format would suit every individual, every subject matter expert within the business. So the fact that we have a diverse content marketing strategy allows us to tap into the internal expertise within the business, but also reinforce that we're a people first company. So that's not just specific to Bizzdesign. I believe that would be applicable anywhere. Not just a software business, that it is a people first company. So I agree with you completely that is a key point, and it's something that we keep top of mind within our own strategy.
Absolutely.
And so in terms of the using AI, so for me, it continues to amplify our team's skills and creativity. So it's certainly not there to replace them. The human touch is crucial. It's crucial certainly within our industry, where our prospects and customers, okay, of course they're smart, but they're also subject matter experts. So it is crucial that we remain authentic. But despite that, we do use AI to increase efficiency and effectiveness across multiple areas, and that has only increased over the last 12 months. So one area would be content creation. So it does help us generate, long form drafts, even short form headlines, for our writers then to take and improve. If I look at content optimization, you're right, we produce high volumes of content. But one of the things that we need to continue to focus on is that in a sea of content out there on the web, that we continue to add real value. So produce content that is difficult to find elsewhere, that really helps someone in their day-to-day job. So the content optimization, we use tools. It may be SEO related tools. For example, it allows us to enhance, improve, and refine copy for sure. We also leverage it for audience insights. So our platforms that we use, it could be our lead management platform or our CRM. So the AI capabilities within those tools help us really analyze some of that data much quicker than we have done in the past, especially around segmentation. So it allows us to identify some of the segments that are working for us at the moment. It also helps us with predictions as well, I've found. And lastly, it also helps us with what I call lookalike audience identification and targeting. So certainly over the last 12 months, it's become easier and more efficient to achieve some of those or to complete some of those exercises than it might have done in the past. We have quite long sales cycles. Of course, in enterprise software, it's no different in Bizzdesign. So reducing the manual effort in reporting marketing's impact on pipeline and the business has been made more efficient and effective using AI as well. So we spend less time on the manual tasks, and we focus on our initiatives and our programs as a result. So it's quite a diverse mix in terms of how we're leveraging it, but it's certainly something that we're fully embracing and continuing to leverage, I think, even to a higher degree in 2025.
Have you gone so far as to set up policies or maybe more, ground rules and specifics over what tool to use for certain activities and what you must not use AI for because we found it doesn't work, and what you can use it for? Or are you still in that phase of letting people figure things out, what's best for them, and then share knowledge amongst each other and do what works for each individual?
It's a great question. We have certainly put some ground rules in place. Our content marketing function is one that has been recently established. So it's been relatively straightforward to put in place some guardrails in terms of how we're going to leverage AI. I think that's key. So it is still in progress, but we are all aware that that's something that we're putting in place, and I've made clear that that's something that we are required to do. And one of the reasons, for that is if I go back maybe 10 or 12 months ago, things do go wrong at times, and there are situations that we learn from. So there was an early experiment maybe 10, 12 months ago where we aimed really to, again, streamline content creation, but we didn't, I feel, align with the business strategy as effectively as we could. We didn't inform some of our internal stakeholders that were involved in this particular initiative in terms of how AI was being used to, say, complement the content that we were creating. You know, that really resulted in a misalignment both internally and externally. So the messaging that we created based on the original content created by our experts, you know, it was valuable, it was still accurate, but it really felt a little bit robotic, I remember. I mean, it lacked some of the nuances, didn't really align to our tone of voice. So not only did our internal stakeholders point this out, we had some of our customers saying, you know, it felt a bit off, didn't fully resonate with our audience. So that was one, I guess, lesson that we learned early on, that, okay, AI is a powerful tool, but it very much should complement, you know, not replace the human aspect. But the other important element is the transparency, you know, and then the alignment across the teams. I think that's crucial for success in terms of, okay, if we're leveraging it within the marketing organization, this is how and why we are leveraging it and we are utilizing it, you know, to drive efficiency, to be more effective, and to ensure that we not only educate the business, but be as transparent as possible. So that will feed into our guidelines and our guardrails going forward, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely love that. Okay, so we're going to move on to the part of the podcast where you are asked a question from our previous guest. So our previous guest asked you a question, not knowing at the time who they were posing the question to, but very much a question to leaders in B2B marketing space. So Mike Derrico, head of marketing at Arix Technologies, he's asked you,
if you could look into the future and make a prediction, whether it's 12 months from now or 5 or 10 years from now, what do you think the next short form video of today is going to be? So like email has lost its impact. Long form video has lost its impact. All these things at work are slowly losing efficiency or attention, but everybody's on short form video right now. I want to know, what is the next thing?
Great question. And look, I agree. Short form video continues to dominate, but I do believe it will evolve and new formats will emerge. You know, for me, being authentic, you know, continues to be important and will continue to be more important than ever. I feel, you know, prospects and customers, they value genuine, relatable content, let's say over polished perfection. But one of the areas that I feel will continue to evolve and may emerge as a high use format is more immersive experiences, and it's one of the areas that I've continued to think about how we could use within our own industry. So using the likes of augmented reality or virtual reality to create more immersive, practical experiences. So I think as these technologies become more accessible, they can offer more immersive experiences that maybe move beyond the likes of the formats that we're talking about at the moment, like the short form video. You know, can brands create interactive environments for consumers to kind of engage more closely with products or services in a more virtual space, but that feels practical and that feels more natural, and that's something that I feel marketers will continue to explore. And within our own industry, we are looking at how we may leverage this technology to create more immersive product walkthroughs, even if it's creating these experiences, you know, at trade shows, within our booths, you know, providing attendees with a more hands-on experience of the solution that we provide. You know, maybe we could enable them to navigate through different use cases and scenarios within our solution, in a more, in a more immersive way. We may be able to bring that to the webinar format that I mentioned as well. And that's something, certainly if you look at the next kind of 5 years, that's certainly an area that I feel will become more accessible, and the ability to create more immersive experiences, I think, will add real value for organizations to offer these type of experiences to their prospects and customers.
Yeah, that's such a great answer. And, you know, I'm definitely excited to see how immersive experience will grow and evolve and become more creative as well. I definitely think that that's going to become more of a thing. And I can imagine that marketing teams and organizations won't have to do a lot of the figuring out themselves, because we'll start to be able to subscribe to tools and platforms that enable us to provide types of immersive experiences for our customers and audiences and all of that, won't we? So it's exciting times, really, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. And I believe if it adds genuine value, and it is a practical use of this technology, and marketers can figure out how to achieve that, I feel it is something that, you know, that will emerge as a genuine format that, you know, may complement or even replace the type of format we're seeing today.
Yeah, it's exciting. I agree. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. That was a really great answer to that question. I agree, it was a really good question. So this is your chance now to ask our next guest a question. So our next guest on B2B Content Strategist, what would you like to ask them?
So yes, my question is, how important do you see brand as a differentiator in even today's competitive market? And if you agree that it is a crucial differentiator, how do you ensure that brand-focused campaigns are valued within your organization and also measured effectively?
Brilliant. Well, our next guest will answer that question and we'll see what they have to say. But yeah, I love that. It's a really good question. We hear so many people who are experts within the generative AI world talking all the time about just how important brand is in this world of AI, that it's even more important to differentiate, isn't it? So I'd be really keen to hear what the next guest has to say. So thank you, Ciarán. Well, that has been a brilliant episode of B2B Content Strategist. As I said, thank you for joining me once again. So it was great to have you the first time, and just so good to have you back on the show as well. And it seems like a lot has changed and moved on since we last spoke as well. So it's been such a good conversation. Where would you like people to go if they want to connect with you and let you know that they listen to the episode and say hi?
Sure. I'm quite active on LinkedIn, so you'll certainly find me on LinkedIn, and I tend to post content as frequently as I can, and people can find me there.
It's not really surprising, since pretty much every guest on a show like this says LinkedIn is the place to go, isn't it? That's where we all hang out. So I will put a link to your profile for LinkedIn within the show notes. So if you're listening to this now on any podcast app, if you head down to the show notes, you'll be able to just click on that link and go over to LinkedIn. Otherwise, you know, we'll also have the link in the blog post, etc. as well. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. And I'm sure that everyone who's tuned in has got tremendous value from this episode. So thank you once again.
Thanks a lot, Amy. I've really enjoyed being part of this podcast. I've really enjoyed our conversation as always. So thanks again for having me on.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of B2B Content Strategist. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode. Feel free to connect with me on social media. You can find me, Amy Woods, founder of Content 10X, on LinkedIn. If you get in touch, please do leave a message and let me know that you listen to B2B Content Strategist. You can also connect with Content 10X. We're on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And for more insights on optimizing your content marketing and the power of repurposing, head over to content10x.com. You'll discover valuable resources to help you maximize the impact of your content. We have our sister podcast, the Content 10X podcast, hundreds and hundreds of blog posts, and a library full of free resources and guides all about how to be a better content creator and content repurposer. If you're seeking consulting support or a trusted partner to handle your content creation, repurposing and distribution, then also reach out to us. We offer a world-class, fully managed service that takes care of as much or as little as you need when you need it. Once again, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I'll catch you in the next one.